So today I'm going to talk about naked Raku. In the past, if you watched the earlier videos on Raku, we talked about the glazes here, like the copper sand, the copper luster, the clear crackle, no glaze, and how this surface happens with reduction. Now the two pieces in front of me are a process called naked Raku, because instead of glazes, where you're going to use a really thick slip to paint the areas, and when we heat this up, wherever the slip cracks is going to be in the post-reduction process, it's where the smoke is going to go, wherever the slip that's on here cracks. Then we get the slip off, and then we seal this, and then now we have a result with a lot of crackle effects, but with no glaze. So that's what I'm going to show how to prepare your piece right now for this. This is one that was done with a green slip that was already painted on the piece and fired to give me a color. So today we're going to do a white one. In class, I'll be talking about how we can get other colors underneath. Okay, but the main key is with naked Raku, it's a slip, not a glaze. Our normal Raku, we use glazes. So that's the difference between the two. Now, we don't normally mix the two because these only go up to about 1300 degrees when we do the reduction versus the normal glazes need to go up to 18 to 1900. So let's move to how to get a piece ready for naked Raku. Here is the piece that I have that I'm going to get ready for naked Raku today. It has a terra sigillata. If you remember, that's our really fine slip that was painted on and then polished. That helps the naked Raku slip actually to pop off easier. So if you have a really coarse surface, it's a lot harder to get the material off to see the decoration underneath. The slip is really thick. It's almost like a thick plaster. If you put it on too thin, again, it is really hard to get it off your piece. So we'll go ahead and just paint it on, and you'll see as I paint it, it's going to start drying pretty quickly, and you'll see it literally looks like, I always tell students that when I'm creating these, it's like painting a plaster on, like plastering a wall or putting a plaster bandage onto a piece. If it's thinner than that, it's a nightmare to get it off. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep painting it on. And I'm using one of these thicker rabbit fur brushes that picks up slip for a ceramic process is really easy compared to synthetics. So it helps me get this thick slurry on really quick. And later on, as you experiment with this process, you can use wax resist or liquid latex masking, and you can actually mask areas off and then peel it off while it's still wet a little bit, and then you can get decorations like lines and spirals, which I know some people that do that. So what I'm doing right now, just looking to see if there's any spots I need to get a little bit more. It looks like we're good. Another way to tell is as it's drying, if it's a really hot day later on, if we're doing this outdoors, and of course here in Phoenix, if it's over 100 degrees, this might start cracking immediately. So that is about where we need to be. So now I'm going to take this and put this in the kiln. So here we are at the Raku kiln. If you look at the piece, I've just placed it in the kiln, and I'm going to go ahead and get it started. So now we have the fire going, and we're going to put the pot in part way to heat up the piece and dry out the slip quicker. So I'm going to leave it like this for about 10 minutes, then we'll go ahead and shut the kiln. So now we're ready to pull the piece that we put the naked Raku slip on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the kiln and pull it into the reduction chamber. So currently it's about 1300 degrees. try to pick these up from the inside so I don't accidentally knock some of the slip off. And it usually takes a little bit longer to start combusting compared to normal Raku because it's cooler. And I add a little bit of sawdust to make sure that the rim and the interior gets really black. So I'm going to give it a minute or two like this, and then I'm going to open it up and re-add oxygen to it to cause the fire effect to build up to make sure we get plenty of the slip cracks to turn black. So now we've been waiting for about 10 minutes. So the piece has been cooling in the can, but it's still hot and you still see smoke. I'm going to grab it and close the can so it doesn't reignite. Then I'm going to quench it, and you'll see a bunch of the slip has popped off. And this will help with the cleanup, and it just saves time on cleanup. It's a big one. But lately I've been quenching in water. You'll still see there's pieces of the slip still on there. I'll be peeling that off later. You can see there's a heavy shadow effect on one side, and you can see to the lighter crackle on that side. So this piece will have a pretty interesting complexity to it once it's all done. So now I just put it to the side to cool down, and then the next step would be just to finish cleaning up, and then it'll look like the pieces are inside once it's sealed.